Businesses thrive by knowing customer insights because today's insights are tomorrow's facts. At iResearch, we live and breathe insights. And despite searching high and low, we were unable to find a customer insights podcast that answers one of the most important questions in business. Why do customers do what they do? So we launched one. Hi, I'm your host, Darshan Mehta. I'd like to welcome Steve Phillips, who is a prominent figure in the market research industry. He is known for his role as the founder and CEO of Zappi, a pioneering consumer insights platform that operates as a certified B Corporation. He co-founded Zappi in 2012 with the vision of digitizing market research, making it more accessible and efficient for brands to gather consumer insights. Under his leadership, Zappi has focused on automating the consumer insights process, enabling creators to validate their ideas quickly and effectively. Steve is also an author, and having recently published The Consumer Insights Revolution, which discusses the evolving landscape of consumer insights and the role of technology in shaping his field. Welcome, Steve. How are you?
Very good. Thank you, Darshan. How are you?
Excellent. So I usually like to start off by if you can tell us the journey you've been on and maybe some of the key aha moments that have put you to where you are now at the forefront of consumer insights.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And stop me if I start getting boring. So I remember I'll give you my early graduate trainee story. So I was at university in the early 90s. So, and I didn't know anything about marketing, didn't know anything about research, but I decided I wanted to go into marketing because someone came to the university and they were from P&G, and I remember them getting up and doing a speech about something like that. Can't remember what it was. But then someone from the crowd asked a question. And the question was, what do you spend your time doing on a day-to-day basis? I spent a lot of time in meetings. And I thought, I could do that. I could meet people. I could be in meetings. I can imagine myself doing that. So I decided to try and get into marketing. It was height of the recession in the early 90s, and ended up being advised to get similar experience in a related field. And so I ended up in market research. So that's how I fell into market research, as everyone falls into it. And then I've never left. I've tried a few times. I've almost become a planner a couple of times, almost gone client side, but I've stayed supply side my entire career. I worked in Asia for about 6 years in the 90s, and then New York for 6 years, and then moved back to the UK about 20 years ago and started my first company. And now I'm on my fourth. So that's a very potted history of my background.
So you were attracted because you could do meetings all day, but I'm curious, what actually hooked you once you got into market research? Because the data was just the meetings.
Yeah, it wasn't the meetings. And actually, you really ebbed and flowed. So the first agency I worked at in London for a year, where I did my graduate traineeship, it wasn't the most exciting place. And then I moved to Hong Kong. And the company I worked for there was just fabulous. It was just an exciting place to be. We were doing pioneering work. We were going into new markets. We were uncovering new insights. Clients were amazed we could find out what they wanted. And you realize, I think I realized then the power of great insight. You had a lot of Western, but also Asian brands who were trying to understand different markets, different consumers, different trends, how ideas from one market might work in another market. And it was just a very exciting place to be, Asia in the 90s. There was just so much going on and so much optimism and so much, it was like exploring a new landscape. You know, we were doing work in China in, the early 90s, which very few people were doing at the time. It was really like a handful of companies. And so we had to work out everything. Like, how do you sample door to door? Can you sample? Will the Communist Party stop you sampling door to door? Can you sample on the street? Will you get arrested? What happened? How do you get your interviews from a weird region in the middle of China to how do you do quality control checks? All of that stuff was just really, really interesting. You were making it up as you go along. So it was just great fun.
So I'm curious, before we get into the power of insights, I want to know, how do you define insights?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of people talk about that. So to me, it is thinking on top of data. So it is genuinely understanding data and taking that data to a point where you can create a business outcome. So the point where you can make a business decision based on that data. And typically data doesn't make the decision for you. It might be 72, it might be 80. That's not going to help you make a decision. But when you understand what the data is saying about the market, about the consumer, and you think, aha, I've understood that, and now I understand the market and the consumer better, that to me is an insight, if it then powers an action.
Can you give me a good example of what you're talking about? I agree with you, but I'm just curious how you actually explained it to someone.
Yeah, so I would say, if you're looking at a tracking study and you say, my brand favorability is 50, I don't think that means anything to you. If you say my brand favorability was at 60 and now is 50, and it's gone down mostly among women, then you go, oh, okay. The insight is that women's perspective on my brands is changing rapidly. I need to do something about it. And I'm going to dig into that data more and create an advertising campaign on the back of it. So that to me is exploring data, creating an insight, and then looking to create an action on the back of it.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to the power of insight. When you got into market research, you saw the power of insight. Maybe you can describe what is that and how did it make you feel?
A lot of the time, particularly then and now as well, our clients are struggling with what to do next. So they might know they might know the market, but they don't know where the market is going. They might not understand the target audience. And because of that, they cannot make a decision about a product or a pack or what sort of price range to put in or whatever it might be. And the great thing about insights is that we can illuminate that problem. We can help them understand what the problem is. We can hopefully then say, and where it's going seems to be this, and this is the insight I can give you to help you make that decision. So the paralysis stops and you start taking action. So to me, great insight work pushes people towards action. And that action, ideally, is going to be the best possible action they could take in that situation.
What do you think is a common mistake? Maybe 3 things you can say that people make when it comes to insights.
I think the first one is thinking just data is insight. I think you need to have something above that. I think a second one is an analysis paralysis. So data is there to create insight, to help you make action. It is not there to navel gaze around. Quite often people are scared of taking action. And so they use, what's the old saying about consumer insight? People use it like a drunk uses a lamppost, more for support than illumination. And so people quite often will get very happy at just sitting around and go, oh, let's do some more research. Let's look at the data a bit more. And that's not the point of it. It's to create action. And then I think probably the third one is continuing to do what you've done for the last 5 years, thinking that's the best thing to do for the next 5 years. And insight has changed every 5 years since I've been in it. It's got better, it's got cheaper, it's got faster, and is now aligning very closely with AI. We're at the forefront of some of those technical developments. And what you did 3 years ago, 2 years ago, even a year ago, frankly, is not the thing to do next year. And I think that's probably the final one, which is the hardest for people, because it's a bit like the decision thing. People often don't like change. They don't like risk. They don't want to make decisions. They're sort of quite happy in their world. And I think the role of insight should be to help push people to make change. And we have to, in the insight industry, make change as well, because the world is moving on and rapidly.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, insights are really the key to innovation, right? And innovation means changing and evolving. And that's often one of the hardest things for people to do. But if you think about it, that's one of the most critical things you can do to be competitive in today's hyper-competitive environment.
Yeah, it's interesting. There was a study out very recently looking at, I can't remember, I think it might have been an AMA study, looking at what elements within the marketing mix, the marketing arena are at forefront of AI. And actually it was consumer insight. So consumer insight companies, or almost all of them, are integrating AI into their processes. All of our clients are thinking about how you integrate AI. That is not necessarily happening at the creative agencies, some of the media. It's not happening throughout the marketing discipline, but actually consumer insight was at the forefront of that. And I think that's because we understand data. We understand data, and we want to not just rest on data, but create insight on top of it. And AI is very good at that, and very good at helping us do that rapidly. So we're really beginning to adopt it throughout what we're doing, and so is many people in the industry. So it's a very exciting time from a consumer insight.
In fact, you're one of the pioneers of integrating AI into market research. But I'm curious, as we get into AI, first, I want you to define AI. I mean, it stands for artificial intelligence, but how much of it would you say is artificial intelligence versus automated intelligence?
I'm not sure what the difference is. And to me, I mean, it's really digital intelligence or non-human intelligence, but it's based on human understanding. So it's taking a large corpus of human understanding data and then replicating it through LLMs. The truth is that the world of AI is moving so incredibly rapidly. The only way of keeping up is continuously looking at the different models, continuously looking at where they're going. The recent rise of the Google Maps, so two of Google's non-LLMs, a geometry one and a maths one, won the silver medal at the International Maths Olympiad. And that was only a couple of weeks ago. And that is from a world where a year ago, the typical LLM did not know if 2 + 2 = 4. So they've gone from not knowing that to being able to solve some of the most complicated maths problems on the planet. Now, that is remarkable progress. And if you think about it for consumer insight, it's going to completely change, right? We won't need SPSS type software platforms to do data analysis on, because we can just use a Google LLM or a Google AI model. So it's just going to be so transformative, in my view, that you just have to be. I mean, it's a business imperative now to be very much at the forefront.
The reason I asked you about AI in terms of artificial versus automated, I actually think artificial incorporates the element of emotion, and I'm not sure AI is at that level yet. I'm not saying we won't get there, but I'm not sure if it's at that level. I think a good part of insights is actually being able to understand human emotion as well. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that?
Actually, I don't think it. I think it's pretty good at emotion. I mean, it can write nice poetry. It's not terribly good at humor, but it can tell jokes. It's a bit derivative on the humor side. But where we're looking at, so what's interesting is if you ask Google, the Google API, and we do this a lot with videos or images, either from concepts or from advertising. If you asked it 2 years ago to effectively describe an ad to me, it would describe it as having, I don't know, an aeroplane and a person and a dog so it would look at objects and tell you what objects existed in that video. If you ask it now, it will tell you those objects that are involved in that video, but it will also tell you story elements, and it will also make a guess on emotion. So it will, and it's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's not brilliant, but it's not too bad. I mean, it's not great on things like sarcasm, but most emotion is relatively easy to work out, and they're never perfect. Like, they do hallucinate, they're never perfect. But the question is, do they get you more than 80%? And a lot of the time, 80% plus is fine. And if the movement is going from 80 to 85 and then to 90, and it's in months, you're going to go with it, right? So I think it's getting close with emotion, and it just will get better.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to continue getting better. Yeah.
Yeah, you look at facial coding, facial recognition, and facial coding. So facial coding is very good at picking up emotions in a sociable setting where people are more expressive with their emotions.
So can you give me 3 examples of how you're incorporating AI in market research, and what are some examples of how you've seen different outcomes as a result?
Yeah, so we're just always trying to improve what we're doing. So we have incorporated AI, and we've always used AI to write reports, market research reports. So our goal from the beginning was to do great consumer insight. So the same level that you would get with a typical market research company, but we wanted to do it automated. So great research automated. Now, the early stage AI models we had for writing reports were if that then this type models, and they were relatively basic. So it was more like, someone with a year's experience writing a report. Now we've incorporated the latest of the LLMs. It's much more like someone with 10 years experience writing a report. Now, it's not like someone with 10 years experience who really knows your business. So that's the next level that we've got to get to. So we've got to increase our understanding within the LLM of someone's business, but they certainly understand consumer insight and the application of consumer insight really well. That storytelling is brilliant. We're beginning to use agents a lot. So agents based on the GPT agent structure. And we can use that for doing meta-analytics across our entire data asset. So, can you see not just answer the question, will this ad work, say, young men in Thailand, but answer the question, what type of advertising works for young men in Thailand? What are the types of things I should do with my campaign to make it resonate with that audience in that country? So that's really interesting. And we can get access to that data and analyze that data and report on that data in seconds now, which is an amazing place to be. So where I think the AI will help us go is, I don't know if you read the Jeff Bezos Amazon letters, shareholder letters every year, but he wrote a letter once about having about the Amazon meeting room and the Amazon meeting process. But one of the things he talked about in there was having a chair in the room that no one was allowed to sit on. And the idea was that you're sitting around a meeting table, deciding on whatever it might be, where to put a factory or a distribution center or what lines of business to go into. And you always have to look at this chair and think, what would the consumer think? The consumers that symbolized by that chair, what would the consumer think? The purpose where I want to take Zappi, and we're getting very close now, is Zappi can be that chair for you. So you can be in a meeting and literally say, I'm thinking about putting an ops center in this jurisdiction. What would the customer think? And we have so much understanding of the Amazon customer or the customer of whatever the client is, that it can give a very good indication of exactly how their customer would relate to that thing. So it really should. The promise of it is every CEO in every annual report says that they're consumer centric. And this should really empower consumer centricity, really help companies have consumers at the heart of every decision.
So to do this, have you developed your own derivative of an LLM, or are you using an existing one?
No, we're using existing ones. I don't think anyone really is other than the big companies creating LLMs. It's not terribly sensible to try and change an LLM. You want to utilize an existing one, grow with it. But we have, one of our agent models allows you to switch between Claude or Anthropic or Stability or whatever. So you can switch between the different models. But when no one, that business is a very, very expensive business to be in. So we'll just utilize the best of the models out there.
But I think you're right. I think eventually it's going to get to a point where there's going to be certain contexts of certain businesses where you can go deeper, and it has, the LLM will have a better understanding of the context of that business, let's say. So you can get more further insights and more, comments and things relative to the context of the business.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely will. And it's beginning to happen.
How far out do you see that happening? I was just going to ask you.
Well, it's beginning to happen now. So, we have agents working together. So these are each powered by LLMs and each trained on different data sets. So you might have an agent that understands the category really well, an agent that understands advertising and consumer reactions to advertising. And these agents can work together with a client overviewing, but they're all obviously digital. And we are realizing that we need to include other agents with an internal understanding of the client. So we've created tone of voice agents, for instance, and we've trained them. We originally used to train them on brand books, client brand books, but they tended to be not very up to date. So we train them on their advertising campaigns, and we say, this is the last 10 advertising campaigns. Integrate that into the model, and every time you see a new advertising campaign, say, does it fit with the tone of voice of the campaigns we've just shown you? We just created a legal agent for a client who wanted to make sure that what they were producing, what we were creating with them, wasn't going off piste. And so we could create a legal agent, and that legal agent could make sure that the client guidelines were kept to. So it's happening right now, and it will just balloon over the next couple of years, I think.
Now, are you seeing this AI working well across industries and brands, or is it better in certain industries or brands?
It's really not to do with the industry. It's to do with the amount of data you've got. It's the amount of data and the structure of that data. So an LLM can create a new ice cream brand for you right now. Just go to a ChatGPT, it will create one for you, and then you can ask Midjourney for an image of that thing. But if you want to create something cutting edge that is really grounded in consumer insight, you need to have a data asset, consumer insight, and a data asset, probably social media insight, to make sure it's right at the cutting edge of where trends are going. And you want to point the LLM at that data asset. Well, it depends on how you manage and look after that data asset. How up to date is it? How strong it is? Does it reflect all your audience criteria, et cetera, et cetera? So the brands who are thinking about data in a sophisticated way are doing much better and are really at the forefront of where AI can take them. And I think it's interesting. I think compared to other technology waves, this one will actually be very good for large organizations. So a lot of the technology wave in the last 40 years be great for small companies, right? The web allowed anyone to sell anything anywhere, which was just on, P&G was built on distribution, but distribution is now, mum and pop stores can sell all over the world. It's amazing. The web allowed you to get your information to anyone across the world. So you could advertise, you could talk to people. So those ways have really helped smaller brands. I think AI in many ways will help large brands. If they can, because of the data asset that they've got, because the way we can utilize that data, bring that data together, create new exciting insights, move very quick, just be much more agile about things. If they can harness that potential, they'll do very well.
What are the shortcomings, would you say, of AI currently?
The remarkable thing is that it's changing so quickly. So you look at a model and you think it's not very good. I work very closely with a head of AI research, and one of his little tests was always to ask LLMs, new LLMs that came on the market, how many R's are there in the word blueberry? And LLMs are not mathematical models; they're language models, and they're predicting the next either pixel or letter or word, and really they don't understand things very well. And the original models had no idea how many R's in blueberry. They just would get the question wrong, not understanding, and get it wrong over and over again. But they're getting so much better. So in the last 6 months, it's just that they're learning so quickly and upgrading so quickly that you go, oh, they're awful at this, but 3 months later they can do it. So I think the world of saying LLMs are not very good at this one function, so I'll provide that function on top of an LLM, and that will be my business model, is a very short-term business model, because the LLMs could get incredibly good at it in 3 months. Or you may be able to combine two different LLMs, like a Midjourney and a ChatGPT, so that one's good at pixels, one's good at language, and then maybe the new Google Maps one, and suddenly you've got language, maps, and images. So really, it's about keeping up with how good they are in some ways, instead of looking at their weaknesses, because they're so good at quickly changing.
When you talk about these data sets, what percentage would you say an ideal data set would be quantitative versus qualitative?
Well, that's another interesting question. So again, we have survey data, quantitative survey data typically. And a lot of traditional quantitative research is on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like this brand? On a scale of 1 to 10, how modern do you think this brand is? On a scale of 1 to 10, how popular is this brand? And the truth about those data sets is that they're not very interesting. They're not very interesting. They're highly correlated. And there's not much you can do at a meta level with them. However, if you start redesigning your research and making it much more open-ended, what you can now do with open-ended questions is you can easily and rapidly analyze them in a quantitative and a qualitative way. So actually, we're moving the direction of our quantitative research to be much more open-ended and language-driven. And that's much more inspiring than the new AI models. So the ground is changing on the type of data that is good for the AI world, and we're trying to adapt to that.
So it's better to have more qualitative, you're saying it's heading that way. But I'm curious, how do you get people to actually answer open-ended? Because that's always been a challenge, right? Getting people to answer open-ended questions.
Yeah, we literally just done an experiment with, I don't know, 20, 25, we'll publish a white paper about it, but 20 or 25 different types of open-ended and different types of prompts and different, anything from, you can say, here's something, do you like it? Or here's something, and you can say, please, it's really important that we get great feedback. Can you tell me what you like about this? Or you can say, please tell me what you like about this. And if you don't, I won't give you your incentive. Or please tell me what you like about it. And you can get, and you must write 200 letters. So there are a whole wide range of ways that you can look at and construct open-ended questions. You can do things like a chatbot. We've experimented with a chatbot, which will ask you questions in different probes. And so because of the importance of it, we've just done a piece of meta research looking at a whole range of questions for different types of scenarios. And that's how we're making sure we get as good quality as possible.
So it sounds like, in some ways, you're maybe doing some quantitative questions, and you get to a point where then you ask a more pertinent or more focused qualitative question for the open-ended.
Yeah, exactly. And bear in mind, the data you have is not just the consumer reaction to the thing, the ad. Let's say it's an ad. So you also have data about the ad because we've tagged it using various APIs. And you also have data about the person that's taking the survey. So it's that combination of three things. So if you imagine you go back to the example of I'm testing my ad in Thailand to find out whether it's good before I put it online or on TV. Now I want to look at my data asset beforehand and say what types of advertising works in Thailand with young men. So you want to isolate your audience to young men. You can then because you'll have some closed-end bids. So you have how much do you like the ad? You then take the top 10 and the bottom 20 ads in your data asset, and you say what tags are associated with the top ones. There's a lot of humor in the top ads, and there's a lot of I don't know, big messages or offers in the bottom ads, and you go, okay, so humor is a lot better than offers, so I'm going to go with that. And then you've got the open-ended questions, which are, the rabbit made me laugh, or this made me laugh, or that, and so you need all three bits of data to really tell the story and to really understand what's going on in that market and what is the best way of working closely with that audience.
So let me talk a little bit about your book, The Consumer Insights Revolution. What can you tell us about your book, and what's the main thing or takeaway that you want readers to take from the book?
Yeah, so it's really the story of the journey we've been on with Pepsi. So Pepsi, and I give them a lot of credit. About 5 or 6 years ago, they decided that the consumer insight world was just very old-fashioned. A lot of their data sat in PowerPoint reports on people's desks or in Word documents or something like that, and they weren't building any sort of data asset. And they looked at the market, and they talked to a lot of 130 companies or something like that. And in the end, we won the pitch. And we won the pitch. We were very much smaller at the time, but our technology was significantly better. And we were going in the same direction as they wanted to go, which is develop a digitized system to democratize insight. So they wanted to go out and have a system where they could have meta-analytics, they could have all their data in one place, they could have standardization, they could have harmonization, they could have great quality data that you could test a product in Thailand and Romania and Cuba, and you would be able to compare the results of those and go, actually, this product's going to work much better in Romania, let's go there, let's do something else in Cuba. So you can look at things, the picture holistically. And we're not the only part of the solution, but we are a core part of it. And the book we've written it with Pepsi, Stefan Gans and Kate Shard at Pepsi, to describe that journey they went on and the role we played, and how you can now that we've written the playbook, how large brands can go and digitize their consumer insight departments. And the outcome of that digitization is having much better quality research, much better insight into many different areas, and the ability to have anyone within the organization query that data and get insight at the touch of a button. And that's really transformative for companies. It really puts, as I said before, consumers at the heart of the decision-making process.
So I think one of the outcomes you're talking about is its ability to predict, correct?
Yes, yeah, that's definitely it. So it's understand, inspire, and predict. You need to understand whether the things, you need to understand the people, the market, the environment, but you also need to predict whether something's going to work. And our systems for advertising testing or products are very predictive. They've been market success. They've been validated multiple times. It's about having it at the touch of a button for anyone within the organization. And that democratization of the insight is really critical, so that people can make smart decisions when they're in a room, whether there's an insight person there or not.
Can you give me an example of how this actually impacted Pepsi in your journey with them and when you're writing this book?
Yeah, I mean, they say now that their media spend is something like 20% more effective, and that's hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, they are significantly better at creating advertising that people, which will appeal to the people that they want to appeal to. So it's made a huge impact on the bottom line. But also, interestingly, it really, and this goes back to the point we said right at the beginning, it really served as a wake-up call for the other areas of the business. It was consumer insight at the forefront of digitization. So the CEO at the time had said they wanted to digitize more and more of the company, and it was consumer insights that were at the forefront of that.
But I assume they're taking lots of data from all different sources and compiling it into this data set that then your model is going through and analyzing. And this is being done in real time as well, right?
As with all data systems, there's lots of different data systems. Tying them together is very complicated. It's very difficult. It's very time consuming. Really, it's the reason it took us a long time and took them a long time. But that's at the heart of it, is trying to align these data sets and make sure that you can tell a story on top of them, but tell a story in real time.
You use AI to give you all the insights and narrow it down and list them, but still you need that human element, or no?
You need a human element throughout. I think, and it's interesting, going back to your point about what they're bad at, we're using the human element a lot to integrate understanding of where the brand is and where the brand wants to go. Because the AI quite often will come up with good ideas, but there may be ideas that the brand has tried before and didn't work for some reason or other. So that institutional knowledge and that experience of being in a marketplace for 10 years is invaluable to guide the AI. The AI shouldn't be on its own. I mean, human in the loop is just really important, and will be for a long time, I think. But it's that embrace of the AI as quickly as possible, but the working with it from a human perspective that is critical. Or at least we're finding now.
Well, I was going to say, because a lot of this AI is based on historical data, but one of the reasons you're seeking insight is to become innovative, which, of course, the innovation has no data yet.
In some sense, if you think about the way a model is working and the way the human brain is working, they're very similar, right? They're neural nets. So they are the LLM. When we've been using AI to create new product ideas and create new advertising. And if you'd have asked me when we started doing this, I would have said that we would probably the AIs would probably create quite generic ideas. And the human would have to push the creativity further. The interesting thing is the exact opposite. So what we're finding is that the AI, it's a bit like if you look at, the AlphaGo, the Google AI model that beat the world champion at Go. It was just very creative. It wasn't formulaic. It was very creative in the moves it made in the game. And actually, we find that quite often we're having to reduce the creativity of the AI because it creates something way off piece that no human would think about. So it will create, a broccoli flavored ice cream because it knows broccoli is popular and ice cream is popular. And it goes, okay, I'll create broccoli ice cream. Well, you and I would go, oh, that's disgusting. Of course, you're never going to create broccoli ice cream. So it is very creative. And actually, it's a human. It needs to go, come back down here, cut down to earth a bit, and let's make flavors that are traditionally sweet or blend well with sweet. So it could be sweet and sour rather than sour completely like a broccoli. That was what you said was exactly the expectation I had coming out of it. What I found is that the AIs are highly creative, but need managing, need guardrailing, need supervision.
It's an interesting thing because in some ways, I think we're also then introducing human bias, right, to the problem. But it's all about a balance. It's interesting, I mean, I think we're at that cusp of it move forward, but also you need the balance and balancing between the creativity of AI and also humans' ability, maybe not wanting change, right?
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, now so with the agents we're using with the AI models, we're allowing people to decide how creative to let the agent be. And you can reduce the creativity and you can make it much more guardrail. So you can actually manage the creativity level because they can, as I say, get way too obvious.
So I get the feeling you've had to learn new ways to communicate to clients to have them be open to some of this creativity that AI is giving them. Otherwise, I think that's probably one of your biggest challenges, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also fun. I mean, we're working with the client in the same room often and the model and creating a new product concept for beer in Africa or, crisps in Cuba. And as we're playing with it, we've got the client's data asset underneath, we've got the LLMs on top, we've got the agent, sorry, and it's coming up with stupid ideas. And the client's going, it's because it doesn't understand this about the category. And you go, okay, great. Give me some information about that. I'll upload it into the LLM, teach it, and then it won't make that mistake again. And then we taught it. So now it won't make that mistake ever again when you're doing the same thing. So it's a really fascinating process. It's really interesting working with it.
And how many instances have you seen where, like, a lot of times people use the AIs right now to get kickstarted, right? To get them in the direction. And once they have it, it sparks their own creativity and thinking. And how much of this have you seen lends to, let's say, AI being created, but then actually lends to the human element being even maybe connecting the creativity even better than the AI did originally? Is that still a percentage of what you're seeing, or are you seeing more of a reliance on the AI itself?
We're not comparing it to things that the human has created on their own. What we're trying to do, and there's that famous talk about by Steve Jobs about humans as being able to travel quickly. And, an eagle travels much quicker and a worm travels much slower, and humans are somewhere in the middle. So we're quite good at traveling, but we're not brilliant. We're not the best, we're not the worst. But you give a human a bicycle and they become very, very good at traveling and pretty quickly. And so what we're trying to do is give human creativity an AI bicycle effectively, and get the two working together, and then just continuously iterating on the best ways of working with the models rather than trying to compare them to something else, because the outcome of both is going to be significantly better than the outcome of either.
So moving forward, what do you see as the future of AI and market research? Where are you seeing headed?
Well, it's going to cover everything. And I think, going back to what I just said, I think the interesting space is not where AI is, because it will be everywhere, but it's how the human works most effectively with the AI in each of those situations to maximize the effectiveness of the outcome. So that's the thing. That's the interesting question. And it's an open question. We just don't know. If you asked me a year ago when we started our experiments, I'd have said we would be at a different place than we are now. And I suspect that will be true in a year's time. And we're just continuously learning. And that's, as I said, it's great fun. It's really interesting. I just say dive in.
So for those of our listeners who would like to learn more about AI and market research, are there any links, resources you'd kind of point them to get up to speed?
Yeah, I'm Stephen Phillips on LinkedIn. If you connect with me, I write a newsletter about AI and updates about AI every couple of weeks, and particularly how it's impacting consumer insights. But that's one way. There are increasingly webinars, podcasts that people are putting out about the subject. Obviously, it's not just us talking about it, but that's certainly one way of finding out. And yeah.
What area of AI are you looking to delve into personally yourself that you want to learn more about or experiment more with?
We're using the LLMs, and I think the language models are very, very good now, but getting better slower than they were 6 months ago. I think the maths models will get very, very good very, very quickly. I think the video models will get really very good. I mean, Sora.ai, if you look at the base page of that, we haven't been able to play around with it now, but the early stage demonstrations of it are incredible. And they will be really interesting. Can we create, and when there was most recently, there was the world's first TV advertising campaign entirely created by an AI. And we tested that and people liked it. It tested well. It's a really interesting ad. And it's an example, if you find it, of quite an emotional ad. It was quite an emotional ad created entirely by an AI. So I think probably the video thing will be very, very exciting. The math side models coming out in the next 6 months or so will be very, very exciting. And then, of course, what gets weird is when you start combining these models. When you have a maths model with a language model and a video model, and you say, create me a human being, and robotics gives it a form factor, then you're in a very different place.
I think it's going to be quite interesting. Yeah. So if you could have lunch or dinner with anybody in the world of insights or AI, who would it be and why?
Probably a Mad Mystique from Stability. I've met him once or twice. He speaks really interestingly about the future of AI. Having created Stability, I have not seen where he's going next and would be fascinated to talk to him about it.
Well, Stephen, I want to thank you for joining me today. I appreciate the world of AI and insights that you've opened up to me, and I look forward to seeing what's coming out of it.
Brilliant. It was really interesting. Thanks a lot. I appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Getting to AHA was brought to you by iResearch. To find out more about us, head to iResearch.com and make sure to search for Getting to AHA in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else podcasts are found. And don't forget to click follow to ensure you don't miss any future episodes. Thank you for listening.